we're going to share with you 4 effective ways to help students and us, ourselves, manage stress during these busy seasons. Let me just tag everyone to see if anyone would like to join, and then we can get started. All right, so we know if anyone has not read the book by Jennifer Wallace, it's called oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it, but it's the new book, Jennifer Wallace's new book. I think it's called Never Enough. That's it. It's Never Enough. And then the other book that is recently put out by John Hadid, that is called The Anxious Generation. I highly recommend both of these because both of these talk about the research and what our children right now are currently experiencing and what we can do as parents, individuals, and a community and nation to support our students and change the trajectory that we are seeing that they are going through, right? What we are foreseeing the challenges to be before things, we want to be able to support them and future generations. And what our students right now are currently experiencing is not the way it should be going. And so one of the main points that both of these books highlight is the amount of stress our current children are undergoing. So, children are stressed, right? We see this right now. There's lots of pressure for them to succeed and do well. There's a new book also by Malcolm Gladwell, actually, that talks about the pressures that our children are facing in certain communities and how it's kind of like an epidemic, really, how these values are being spread, but in particularly the academic pressure that students are feeling in certain communities. It's a lot, right? They are putting a ton of pressure on themselves. We know life is much more expensive now, and back then, having a good income, earning a lot, made a difference in your life. Now we're seeing that, and the Journal just came out with an article recently on how, 6-figure couples are earning a lot and still not living the life that they once expected themselves to live because life is just expensive in general, right? So our children are witnessing all of this, and they're seeing that in order to live the life that their parents provided, they need to work really hard. And that, there's no sugarcoating it. That is true. In order to live the life that most parents are providing for our children, these kids need to work double as hard, right? So they're feeling pressure to provide the same type of life for their children and families, just like their parents have provided, feeling pressure to conform to the social norms of their community around them, feeling pressure by the school to outperform and do well. It's just pressure everywhere that they're seeing this. Common sources of stress for teens. We know that teens have several sources of stress, right? They are, again, transitioning into adult. And so just like adults have various avenues of stress, so do our teenagers. Some common ones are academic pressures, which we talked about, which could be just homework, the amount of homework that's being assigned to them, exams, college applications, internship applications, work, community service, extracurricular activities, college preparations. That is just like the academic pressure that these kids are under. SAT prep, PSAT prep, college guidance, etc. They also have social pressures, so pressures from friendships, social media, pressures to fit in, pressures in relationship, love relationship, friendships, relationships with teachers, bosses, etc. Then there's family dynamics, so the responsibilities, what do they owe to their families, expectations from their families that they must meet, whether that is time expectations, values, etc. And then we also have extracurricular activities, right? So what our children are involved in. So sports, clubs, part-time jobs, internships, community service, etc. So tons of pressure. Our children are, again, transitioning into adults. which is a good thing that they're having to learn how to manage a lot, but it's also a lot, right? Their brains are still developing. These are really pivotal years, so it's also a lot. What are some signs? I do want to discuss what are some signs that you as a parent may notice that will signal to you that your child is stressed. So one of them is changes in behavior, right? So you're noticing that they're beginning to withdraw from activities that they used to find really interesting. So if they used to really like lacrosse and now all of a sudden they don't want to go to lacrosse anymore, that's a signal to you that, to dig a little deeper there. Irritability, so they're being triggered really quickly for absolutely no reason. Poor sleep or too much sleep, so they're staying up all night because their brains are wired and they're thinking about all these things that they have to do, or just sleeping in and sleeping too much. It's a coping mechanism, or it's a signal that the brain is really exhausted. And then, escape mechanisms, right? So some ways that children will escape and cope is by avoiding tasks, not doing anything, what we call procrastination. It could also be doing a deep dive into social media and getting stuck there for a while. But these are just some ways that we've seen teenagers tend to cope much more. Also playing video games, scrolling on YouTube, etc. There's also physical symptoms. So this in particularly is how boys will manifest their stress and show us that they're stressed. So they'll have physical ailments. They'll have headaches, stomach aches, back aches. If your child is telling you that they have a lot of this, that's something we want to keep note of. Emotions also. So if you're noticing they're pretty anxious, they're looking sad or depressed, again, pretty frustrated and angry all the time. And then if you're noticing changes in their academics, so their grades start to decline, there's kind of a lack of motivation, they're kind of lethargic and kind of have this malaise attitude to them that they didn't have before, right? These are all signals to us that there's something there that we want to be curious about. We do not want to gloss over these signs or symptoms. Sometimes our children, our teenagers will not have the words to express how they're feeling or have the words or awareness to ask for help that they need. So it is up to us as their parents and caregivers to highlight this for them and support them. Sit with the discomfort of noticing what they're going through and helping them, guide them to get through it, or offering and contracting with clinician support. Again, we are an educational therapy and ADHD student coaching practice, so we specialize in supporting students who have either diverse learning needs, enrichment, highly anxious children. This is a perfect time for you to get support with your child if you are noticing that they are, going through and experiencing stress, because what we can do here at We Thrive is help your child to A, become aware of the stress, B, teach them how to decompress from things, and C, make things a lot more manageable for them so that they can have a plan and approach each of their responsibilities with confidence and in a much calmer way, right? So that way we're pacing the motivation, we're pacing the workload, and it doesn't feel so overwhelming to them. Our goal here at We Thrive Learning is to help your child become an independent learner, which will require them to learn how to time manage, to become self-aware of themselves, to learn strategies and resources that work for them, to ask for help and be aware of the help that they need, to accept the help, and to pace the workload so that it's not done too quickly. We will teach them effective ways to study so that they can study in half the time, and also we'll teach them effective ways to write, take notes, etc. So again, if you're looking for more one-on-one support, please reach out to us. You can schedule a call with me at wethrivelearning.com, and we'll have a 15-minute consultation. You'll get to know us, I'll get to know you, and see if this type of work would be what your child needs, and if not, I will refer you to someone who would be able to help so that your child feels well supported during these times. Because again, we want to remember, your child is developing the brain that they will carry into adulthood, right? And if they get used to stress and anxiety, that is what the brain will crave and get used to. And that is not what we want as ever, but more importantly, we do not want that to be set as a permanent brain structure. It's going to take a lot of time to untangle that once it develops. So please meet with us so that we do not get to that point and your child can develop a healthy, much more balanced brain who is capable of managing their responsibilities in a very calm way. Okay, so we talked a bit about some signs to look out for that will show you that your child may be stressed, right? I want to talk a little bit more about why this decompression is so crucial, right? What are the effects and how does this benefit your children? So some mental health benefits are that it will reduce anxiety and depression. So if we take care of any stress, it will reduce anxiety and depression. Your child will also get a better night's sleep. This doesn't only just go for your child, but it goes for us as well. So some mental health things that we can do to support them is include them in activities that they love, right? So we want them to involve themselves in activities that they love. So if your child loves to go play with art, or do some art, schedule some time for them to dedicate to that. If your child likes to go surfing, schedule some time for them to do that. This is going to lower their cortisol levels. It will also keep their moods much more stable. Right? So again, we're avoiding that irritability that we talked about. That is a sign that your child is stressed. And it will raise awareness of to what it feels like for them to feel calm and at rest. Because oftentimes our children are on the go, 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 go throughout the year. And they can't even remember what it felt like once to just feel calm and well rested. Also, it's a preventative measure of chronic stress, which we talked about, right? Chronic stress is something we really want to avoid for children. That is when you are constantly stressed because their brain will develop and become used to that stress. And that is something we are really trying hard to avoid. So preventing that from happening will help us ensure that they are taking care of their mental health, right? There's also some physical benefits to all of this. So again, it will improve sleep, and it will reduce any tension that they have in their bodies, any inflammation that they have. So once their stress is well taken care of, they will have an easier time falling and staying asleep. So the quality of their sleep will drastically improve, which will have a catalyzing effect into various areas of their life, right? We know that learning consolidates through sleep. They will be in a much better mood. Their relationships will improve. Their view of the world will be much more positive. So again, this stress really impacts sleep, which impacts all areas of our life. It will also, with better sleep, they will have better recovery and growth of their muscles and their brain, right? So their muscles will have a chance to sort of recover from any soreness, stress, tension, their bodies in general. Basically, sleep is the best form of medicine, and in order for them to get good sleep, their stress needs to be at a level that is healthy and not too much, right? We really want to avoid that chronic stress. It will also improve their academic performance. So we know that with better sleep and less stress comes better focus and higher productivity. So it clears their mind to be able to, and allows them to improve on their concentration. It will lead to better attention span. This is especially true for our children with ADHD, who we know that their executive function skills are already impacted, right? With stress and poor sleep, their symptoms are just exacerbated. And so with better attention span, more concentration, they'll be able to absorb and retain information much more, which means it will be easier for them to learn, which ultimately will save them time in the near future. They will complete tasks much more efficiently, again, because they will have less cortisol and their emotional brain region will be less active. So their efficiency and productivity will improve. And not only that, right, but we've talked about how much it will make learning easier for them. And it will improve their time management skills so that they can balance their workload and make sure that they're still prioritizing and scheduling decompression time. Okay, so these are just some ways. Oh, I do want to say it will also enhance their relationships to others, right? Because we know when someone is not stressed and they're well rested, they've had great sleep, they communicate better with others, and they perceive what others are saying in a much more positive way, right? We know that when children are irritable, anything that is said to them is taken in with a very negative tone. And so they perceive that we are, upset with them, reprimanding them, etc., when maybe that's not the case. So with good sleep and less stress, they are able to see things from various perspectives, consider different viewpoints, and anything that's shared with them is received much better. But also it just improves their relationships to you and their relationships to their peers, love interest, teachers, etc. So we do want to really, really, again, highlight how important it is for us to take note of our child's stress and well-being and how it's affecting all areas of their life so that we can support them. So now I want to talk about 4 areas that we encourage our children here at We Thrive to do. And we would encourage you to chat with your child so that they prioritize this. We do want to call out, though, that the most important thing that we can do as parents and caregivers is to model to them how we ourselves take care of our own stress and our well-being. Because you are your child's greatest influence, they are observing and watching you at all times, and the more that they see how you prioritize your self-care, which is sleep and stress is one of them, the more they will mimic that. Okay, so one of them is make sure that you are scheduling for them to do physical activities, right? So physical activities is going to release endorphins and it will also release tension. So make sure, schedule time for them to play outside, to engage with others. You guys can go on family walks, but physical activity, movement is a way for them to really manage stress. I've heard from several students that when they are pretty upset, they will go on a run for a couple of minutes and then they come back and they feel so much better, right? That is because we are burning off the cortisol, literally burning off the cortisol when we are engaged in something physical. So encourage your child to, physical activity is not something that should be thrown out the window when we're stressed. It is the first thing I see a lot of students do. Oh, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to do it. But again, it's so essential for their well-being, so please include that. Make sure that they have an environment that's relaxing. That they create a relaxing environment for themselves. And this will look different for each student. But one of the things that we have seen students do that is relaxing to them are nostalgic activities. And Lisa D'Amour has talked a lot about this, but for children to be able to do activities that are nostalgic to them, that they did when they were young, that brought them a lot of joy and pleasure, right? So whether that be, watching a couple episodes of SpongeBob SquarePants, getting into their favorite pajamas, or cuddling up with you like they used to when they were little, these are all nostalgic activities that will help them to decompress. Also create a calm and clutter-free environment. And we've done a whole Facebook Live on how to set up your child's workspace that you can go to later. Reading as well. Reading is very calming for some children. So, get them their favorite books. You can even set up a little reading nook, do reading as a whole family together, something that will allow them to sort of distract themselves from all the stress that they have going on. Make sure that sometimes they just need to scroll on social media and Pinterest for a little bit. The science on this is pretty mixed. So again, for some students, it's really helpful. For others, it exacerbates even more stress. So my suggestion is not to do this. This is the ideas many students have. So I share with them the science behind why this is probably not the best idea, but I let them make their own decision in the end. And then make sure that, the tone of voice at home is conducive for a relaxing environment, right? So make sure that, there aren't any parties being scheduled during really stressful moments, that the way you communicate with them is in a very gentle tone that considers what they're going through. Make sure that, the topics of conversation that you have with them aren't only based on academics, but, that you're showing them that you're interested in things beyond their academics. Because if all we talk about is academics with them, then that is, what's the message that we're sending them, right? And now they get into a loophole where all they think about is their performance on school. And then we also want to encourage them to practice going into immersing themselves in creative outlets. So for every child, this will be different. Again, So for some, art's going to be a really creative way for them to sort of express themselves, get things off their chest. So it's a form of self-expression. Other children really like to journal this, right? So art is a way for them to sort of get things out of their system. Others really like to cook, right? So they like to get in the kitchen and cook. It's a fun activity for them. Others enjoy listening to music, so just laying in bed or going for a walk or a run and really just jamming out with their tunes. The research shows that actually listening to music stirs up feelings you want to feel. So sometimes we'll hear that students want to listen to sad music, right? And before I used to get curious, like, why sad music? Because it makes them even more sad. But what the research is now telling us is that recalling these experiences, that listening to sad music, for example, will help us to recall experiences that led to their, that led them to, let me see, recalling, let me put this in words that, let me rephrase myself. So they want to feel the feeling that they felt once, right? So listening to sad music is going to help them to recall how they used to feel. What this does is it actually elevates their heart rate. But then through time, through listening to the song, it will help to lower their heart rate, and then they will begin to see things and they feel much more positive emotions after 10 minutes. So angry music actually helps people feel calmer, because what this does is it helps us work through the feeling. So we're no longer glossing or skipping over the feeling, we're working through the feeling so that we come out through the other side with the opposite emotion. So contrary to popular belief, angry or sad music does not make someone angrier or sadder. In fact, it helps us move through that emotion. So it prolongs the physiological arousal that was associated when we were when we got mad, right? So again, it helps us turn that corner, because once we get through those physiological arousals, we're able to speed come through. It provides us a sense of relief, and we come out through the other side feeling much calmer, happier, etc. So that's the research why we listen to music that's either sad or stirs up some anger in us. And then lastly, the last form that we want to share is relaxation techniques. So encourage breathing techniques, mindfulness, reflection work. I can't tell you enough how important reflecting is with your children. We do that constantly here at We Thrive, and I highly encourage you guys to do that, whether it's in the car, at the dinner table, etc. Because we're able to really see things from a different lens so that we can make better choices for ourselves down the future. Relaxation techniques, though, help us to stay present and help us to stay thoughtful, right? So again, relaxation techniques is something we encourage. So I'll go over the 4. So physical activity, help them to create a relaxing environment, encourage them to, or expose them to creative outlets that may help them release some of this tension and stress, and then promote relaxation techniques. Okay, so parents, what are some things that you could do as well, right? So we want to model healthy stress management like we talked about. Show them how you manage your stress and how you know when you're stressed so that they can start to observe it in themselves. Maintain open communication, so, provide regular check-ins with them, try to respond back as non-judgmentally as you can. And again, if you need support, seek professional help. So have them meet with a therapist, a counselor, communicate if there's, with teachers, if they're noticing signs that your child may need some extra support or reasons why they could be so anxious or stressed. See if there's a need for an evaluation for an additional diagnosis. So oftentimes we'll see that students are working twice as hard than their same grade peers. When they come to us, we recommend sometimes that the child be evaluated to see if there are accommodations that the school should be providing and put in place to level out the playing field for this child to succeed and learn in the classroom. Also, you can schedule a call with us. Happy to chat with you to see if our ADHD coaching or educational therapy would be something that could provide relief to you and your family.